Okay, so now we're back in here, and I want to set it up a little bit, and I want to make sure that you're doing everything the way I set it up, just to make your life a little bit easier. Again, you could drag your materials onto here easily, but the way we're going to do it is I want to make sure you go to your wall medium, and then you go over to the materials, and you say use external materials legacy, and then you apply. What that'll do is it'll make a material ID and text and even a material name inside that pre-made material folder. So if you look inside my material folder, you'll see I have ceiling, door, floor, metal, brass, and molding. And if we go back to Max, we'll see that even though I see how I typed in ceiling in the wrong, there it is. So, you know, that's the deal. I spell it wrong in here, it comes in wrong in there. The point is I didn't type this in here. This is the way I imported them in. So that makes it really easy for me to be able to do it once. And then if you import all your materials and then you come back to them, all your objects, I mean, to here, like, and just come in here and then go to materials and do the same thing. Legacy, floor layout doesn't have a texture, that's why it's being whiny. I could say legacy, drop down, it's probably set to embedded, just change it to legacy and say apply. Make sure these are all checked, and then you're good. Okay, so now I've got that. The reason I do that is because when I put these on the ground or when I put these in here now, they already have these two materials set up for me to just drop the textures into. And when I exported them, I should have exported them into this texture folder that is in the game folder. Just in case you missed that. Well, it's in your environment, materials, and environment, and then textures. So they need to be in this folder because everything inside the asset, as we talked about, is what gets built for the game. So they need to. It only looks this deep. So so this means that all my textures are in this folder as they should be, and all my materials are over here. And I could just click on one and build them this way. But we're going to do it through the environment. So you have your environment all laid out. Don't worry about if you're still getting those shadow aberrations and stuff. That's fine. We're going to go over that on Thursday. But we're going to take this medium, this wall medium, any of these mediums that I have. And right now I don't even have them as prefabs. So don't worry about that part. I'm going to skip over that. And maybe we'll come back and make prefabs after everything is working. Though I'm not holding my breath. And you see this little aberration right here where you see some edge stuff. That's fine. With textures, they go away. Plus, there's some other tricks I did. Okay, don't worry about the edge stuff. So I'm going to take this wall medium. I'm going to look over here, and you'll see that I have these two materials sitting right there. And if I open one up, you'll see it says albedo, metallic, normal map, and a bunch of other stuff. That's all I wanted. I probably could have taken an occlusion map too, but I'm on wall medium, so I know that the wall base A goes into... not into molding. Oops. It goes into wall base. And I'll just take this A. It goes to albedo. MS goes to metallic. And N goes to normal map. And you may get that error message that the normal is not set up. Just say fix now. If you don't know, you can click on this too and make sure what's going on is it says imported as default, and or even 2D or whatever. You just need to make sure you change it to normal, and if you don't do it before you put it on the wall, it'll tell you when you put it on the wall. So it's not a big deal. Okay, so going back to here, then I can go to the molding and I can say, hey, molding A goes into molding A. Hey, molding MS goes into molding metallic. Hey, molding N goes into molding normal map. And again, it probably says it. It will say it by default. It doesn't complain until you try to use it. So just be prepared and you can fix it. And now I've got my textures there. Then I would just go to the floor in this case. And I'll take the floor and you'll see there's floor standard. And I'll just take this and go albedo. And I will go metallic, and I will go normal. And now I've got my textures on there. So I haven't baked it because I changed the lighting around. So before you bake it, what I suggest you do is while you're working, just turn off the auto generate. Get a decent light bake real quick, and then turn off the auto generate so it doesn't make you wait every time you move anything. And then you're going to move it around. Let's see, I'm going to move this closer to the wall. I'm going to turn this one up to 3. And you'll see it doesn't seem like it's doing anything, but it is. Trust me. I'm going to look at this one, and I'm not sure if I like how unsmooth this is and stuff, so I'm going to take this one and delete the spec map now. I can go back and look at it later. But I'm going to put it up a little bit higher, so it's 100%. That means there's not using a map, it's just using these sliders of gray, black and white. And then I'm also going to change this to be a little less saturated, because the gray, if you change this color, it actually adds to this color, so it gets less saturated. I'm going to go ahead and do a generate lighting real quick. It'll take a second. Okay. So one of the things I could do is try and move this down lower to see if I can get some of that reflectivity off the ground here. And we don't have reflection probes either. But and then you just tweak until you get what you're looking for. You know, I'm really, at this point, I want you to get your textures in here. I want all your objects that you've made in here too. Do your best to texture them. If you don't, for right now, I even hacked this. This is my ceiling texture, is actually my wall texture. So now you've made the wall, you've made the ground, you've made all these things. Now I'm just tweaking. This light back here, like I said, it's just a hack light. It really shouldn't even be on. So at this point, if I'm going to mess with lights, or I know that there's a bunch of little changes I want to see, I'm going to turn on the auto generate. And then I'll move it out of the way here. Because every time I change it, it's going to change the way it looks. See how dark it was back there? I didn't like that. So now it's just bring up the Photoshop file, take a look at the picture in the background, get an idea of what you want it to look like, and play with it until you get that look. The lighting that we're seeing, the reflectivity down here, is probably, it needs a reflection probe, and that's the reason I turned this one back on, just to get a little bit more softness in here. It's going to bake it again for me. And mine's not too bad. If yours is going really slow, like I said, just turn it off. I don't like these. I need to fix them. And there's a lot of other things. But we've got a really quick and dirty version of this hallway that you who've never made games or made 3D are now able to do. Obviously, the more detail we do, and the deeper you get into it, the more realistic it'll be. So with that said, I will turn it over and let you guys get at it. I want all the textures for all your objects in, well, at least your walls and your ceilings and your baseboards and everything in as soon as possible, like by Thursday. And then everything else you're going to have to just keep plugging away at during the times you're not working on the lighting and tweaking. Because all we have left is the grunge maps, or the decals if we can't get the grunge to work correctly, and then the lighting. And if you want to extend the room back to where it should be, that's great. If you want to do any of the other detail stuff, and then trash on the floor, things like that. But really, you know, you should be happy with yourself that you have something as simple, or it seems as simple as this, done in your first, time working 3D and in Engine and in other softwares you haven't seen. So keep plugging away, and I will talk to you on Thursday, and we'll put it together and import everything in to make sure your settings are right so we don't get our seams. All right.